One of the most important element of successful podcast is having a guest come by and share unique stories. The Meyer feature makes the listening experience of the audience an insightful, entertaining one. To add to that, these are the great marketing and promotional tools for your podcast. The right guest can bring you tons of new listeners by their following alone. Simply put, a guest add a lot of value to your podcast and keep the audience tuning in for more. Hi, my name is Miko Santos from Podcast Creator Society, and today's episodes we're going to be talking about the common mistake podcast creators make when booking a guest. Before we begin, though, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for notification. Now, let's get to the topic. One of the goals in podcast creation is to make sure you book the right guests for your show. As mentioned previously, guests can help boost your rating, your audience, and overall podcast success. As a general principle, you want to make sure that you are also offering your guests something. After all, you will be asking for a generous amount of their time. You want to make it worth their while because I'm pretty sure that they're aiming for that too. You also want to make it as hassle free as possible because this will impact the overall of the guest interaction with the host. Now, that we established the importance of this part of the podcast creation, let us move on the mistake you should avoid when you want to book a guest. Number one, choosing a guest that doesn't fit your podcast. Guest interviews are the great way to share a different viewpoints on a certain things. Can be a platform for education to the listeners. However, a rookie mistake is having a guest that don't actively align with your overall podcast team and value. For example, your podcast is about fitness and you already establish an audience around that niche. Obviously, listener would want to listen to things related to fitness because that's why they came for. Then out of the blue, you decided to have a guest who talks about furniture. Hmm, okay. Now, so these two topics entirely different, which might turn off the audience from listening. Even worse, they will stop tuning into your channel or to your podcast. While it's a great to have diverse content in general, you also want to make it seamless listening experience for the established audience. So if you really want a unique content for the episode, you could think of ways to connect with these topics. In short, make sure that your guests fit your podcast theme well and ideally in a natural manner. Number two, expecting guests to drop everything for you. While collaboration and features come with the benefit for both the host and the guest, this doesn't automatically mean that the guest would immediately drop everything for the feature. Rookie also have the mistake of, say, expecting the guest to adjust to their schedule. This is a big mistake, especially if you're targeting a guest is not a podcast creator. For example, if you're targeting a high value or successful CEO, that person would obviously have a busy schedule. That said, don't expect them to clear out everything for the guesting. So some creator actually do the mistake of sending over their calendars with only say a limited slot available. Make sure that your schedule is relatively flexible to cater to the guest busy schedule. If your guest is also a podcast creator, you don't really have to worry about this part because it's already expected that you two will allow time for each other guesting. Just make sure thought that a popular guest outside of podcasting, you should already expect that it will be you that's going to adjust to their busy schedule. Number three, sending multiple emails or requests. If you like to secure a guest on your podcast show, you might want to stop spamming them with lots of emails and requests for them to be on your show. Multiple emails of the same thing can be, yeah, quite annoying. If you're annoyed with redundant texts, that same feeling evident with a spam message to potential guests. So you don't want to come across as annoying or pushover. Doing so only discourage the guest from replying or maybe coming to your podcast. A few follow up emails with respectful tone are harmless and okay. But repetitively ones are simply just a pain in the eyes to read. As a podcast creator and a host, you don't want to rub off the wrong impression of the potential guest. Number four, making guests do the extra work for you. Another mistake podcast creator often do is letting the guest do the work for them. This is a big no, because it's an added workload for them to their already busy schedule. When you bring in a guest of a high value, it's expected that they have a busy schedule. Remember that your guests are giving you a free content. So, one good thing that you can do in return is to make the process effortless for them. For example, for beginners, tend to bombard guests with questions and stories about themselves beforehand. Chances are this information is already available online, so you can easily search for them on guest website. While it's okay to ask a few details weeks before the interview, so you don't want to ask too much to the point that they're already doing the groundwork for you. After all, that is your job as a podcast creator or host. Simply put, do your homework and have a guest, especially non podcasting one, be as comfortable as possible. Number five, not sending out details beforehand. A big mistake that will surely hurt the podcast episode and guest interaction is failing to send interview details to the guest. Doing so will only make the process confusing. In worst case, it may cause misunderstanding between two parties, especially about the date and time. These details are very important in making the interview a reality. Avoid doing this mistake and make sure that from the first email alone, you already made it clear about the date and time. Also, state the estimated time for the interview and the method for it. You may also want to include the topic and some guide question to help them prepare before the actual interview. This also allowed to build rapport with the guests because there's may be a topic that they are not really comfortable sharing or answering. Again, don't send the detailed and separate emails. Make sure to do fit it in one email, make it easier for both party. Number six, pressuring guests to promote the episode. Another mistake podcasting beginners often do is demanding guests to promote the episode. This is only cause the guests to have a negative impression of you. They might that you're only really using their guesting as a marketing tool instead of putting out a great quality content. Not only it's annoying, but also a disrespectful to the guests and makes the interview experience a forced one. And like any fake interaction, the audience will also pick up on that and may affect your rating, your podcast download, and your listens. Avoid doing this mistake and focus on action that will make the guests want to promote the feature episode. Avoiding telling them to do share the episode, instead create one they will proud to share with their audience. There are a lots of mistakes that you can make as a podcast creator, especially when you're only just starting. The process can be complicated at first, including getting the right guests to feature on your show. This mentioned mistake may seem a lot to avoid, but knowing them and focusing on ways to build a better relationship with a guest can come a long way toward the success of your podcast. Make sure to have the right guests on your podcast that align with your theme and values. After, make sure that the whole interaction is a natural and genuine one, even before the actual interview. So that's it for today's episode. What do you think of these mistakes? Let us know in the comment below. If you like this episode, leave like and share with your friends and family. Also, stay tuned for more podcasting trick and tips in the future. To the next one, thanks for watching.